this is the fourth of our 4 sessions. I gave it this ominous title of Pulling It All Together, and I had a few ideas of what I thought we could do. And given I didn't get much input from the first 3 sessions, I've taken it on a path that I think will give you a bit of an overview. So we've seen that we've had a good 4 sessions. I gave an overview of what we're trying to do in our program at the beginning. Rick has given a really solid discussion on the geology, which is really a fundamental framework of what we're trying to pull together here. And then Mason last week went through much of his water budgeting tools and talking about the numerical modeling and how we build all of the work we've put together in the program in order to make better decisions. And so I have a few ideas. I'll tell you what I'm going to do in the next few seconds. So what I thought I would do is first of all, I'd go through a few slides and answer some typical questions that we thought our website could be really effective in helping you out. So I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to flip over to the website. And what I thought I would do in the website is pick an area and go through a characterization of that property. And you could come at it from the angle of either a consultant who's working on the project and how we would go through characterizing a site and all the information that you could pull from the website to help you. Or you could look at it from the perspective of a reviewer. If you're at one of the public sector agencies, you get reports coming in to your desk, and you might have questions, especially if consultants are getting information from different sources. And you could take a look at some of the work that I'm going to show you today and come to the website to answer questions that you might have on development applications or projects that are going through your day-to-day workflows. Okay, so the first question that I thought, I've touched on this, I think, in the first week, and maybe Rick and Mason also touched on it, but a very easy question. Will my project, I'm doing subsurface work, will my project intersect the water table? And will I need to budget in my project for dewatering because I do hit the water table? So what layers can we turn to look at this? So the first thing that we can turn to is the water table map. We looked at that the first week. And then you could also look at some long-term monitors in the vicinity of the site, if there's any available. We do have quite a few, but there's many white areas on the map. But you could look at the water level fluctuations, or you could look at the 100-year high-low water levels that Mason has put together in his application that he showed last week. So just turning to answering those questions. So here I've just picked geez, my light's going off again. I'm going to get up and dance so it comes back on. So I just picked an area around Mayfield where there might be, say, sewer construction, a lot of development going on in the north part of Brampton, south part of Caledon. And you could look at the water table map on the top there. The contours pop up as you zoom in. You can see that, there's areas where the water table is less than 5 meters. The depth to water table here I'm showing is less than 5 meters below ground surface. You can see the white wells on the upper map that indicate the data points that have gone in to construct the water table surface and the depth to water table. So there's a few wells around, but there's a lot of empty areas. And then down on the bottom, I just put also those maps where the water table is less than 1 meter below ground surface on the left and less than 5 meters below ground surface on the right. So depending on the depth of your construction, you may hit the water table in certain areas around Mayfield here. And then you could take a look. We do have some monitors, long-term monitors. Christina from TRCA is monitoring out in this area, and her water levels are very much up to date. And so you can take a look on the top graph there. The water table fluctuation is about 2 meters over the last few years. So that gives you an idea of the magnitude of what you could expect. And then The other three graphs on the bottom show an annual. I like to go through an annual window when I'm looking at the water levels to see when the high is. The high in this case is around May, and it drops off through the summer and starts picking up again in the fall. So that's an indication of how you can take a look at the water level fluctuation in any given area. And then I wanted to show this, highlight this. This is Mason talked briefly about this last week, but this is the 100-year, kind of taking a page out of hydrology and taking a look at, can we give an estimate of the 100-year high, or any year, 50-year, 20-year, 10-year, high or low water levels, and get an idea of the magnitude of the fluctuation. So in this case, with the black lines, I've highlighted the 100-year. On the bottom is the water level maximum, and on the top is the 100-year water level minimum. You can project those over to the left hand side of the graphs and get a range or an idea of the fluctuation that you might expect at any given site. So the more water levels we have, the more water level trends and packages of data that are in the database, the more these graphs and all these routines get updated every Saturday night. So if we put a string of water level data into the database today, you would see all of these graphs and all of these tools would be up to date next Monday when you came to work. So just a plug to, if you have really nice long-term water levels, whether it's at a landfill site, a long-term monitoring location for anything, that if that data came into the database, all the tools would be accessible. So another question that comes up often, wells are going dry in a certain area, and can we use the database or the website to look at recent data and how might it reflect drought conditions? So you could turn to the location themed map and look for active climate stations and take a look at the climate data. I thought you could turn to the groundwater levels map again, looking at long-term monitoring data, see if the groundwater levels are showing a decline. And you could also take a look at nearby stream flows and see if the streams are also reflecting a low water condition. So one of the things I'll show you today is kind of combining layers from the different layer catalogs and trying to save projects. And I'll talk about that in a few seconds when we get to the website. But here what I've done is I've gone to the layer that has the purple wells, all the wells with our groundwater level themed map. I've gone to the layer catalog and I've added in active climate stations and active surface water stations. And so now I'm ready to zoom in on the parcel or the area that I'm interested in and take a look at the longer term data, whether it's groundwater, climate, or surface water. You could filter the data as well. I've mentioned filtering in the past, and here what I've done is I've filtered all the wells with 35 or more water levels, the long-term monitoring wells, such that the most recent measurement is greater than January 1st, 2020. So how many wells have data into 2020 that we could use to maybe look at a potential drought in 2020. And so here what I've done is I've gone to the climate stations on the left-hand side of the screen are 3 stations along Lake Ontario, Oshawa, Cobourg, Oakville, from along the lakefront. And you can see Oshawa in particular is showing in 2019, the last year, the most recent year, which I think is it's going to be 2019. It's an annual. So the precip is really low on that black bar on the right-hand screen of the right-hand side of the Oshawa graph. And then Peterborough is a little bit low as well. Cobourg and Oakville not so much. So the precipitation you can get an idea. No, these are actually the monthlies. Now I'm confused. Yeah, anyway, we'll come to this when I get to the website. But you can take a look at the most recent climate data. These are monthlies. So the last month, this is June. So what we're looking at is to see if June, which is the last month on the graph there, June 2020 is lower or higher than normal. So it's not annuals, these are monthlies. the lower part of each of these graphs shows how many days of data are collected at each of these stations. And so most of the stations have 30 days of data, except for Cobourg. So when you're looking at Cobourg, interpreting Cobourg data, you would have to take a look at how many days of the month are providing data into the system. And Cobourg is not a very rigorously monitored climate station for precipitation. You could turn to, again, I've turned to one of Christina's wells to see, so June is really low in Oshawa, but not so low out in the west end of our geography. And the Christina's well, which goes into July of 2020 in terms of water levels, is not showing any kind of dramatic decline. So at least in this part of the geography would say, there's not really a concern. I pulled a longer term water level hydrograph from another well in Orono to really highlight the drought in 2016, which we saw. And if you were in the summer of 2016, you could be looking at the water levels and seeing them decline. You can see on the bottom is the annual graphs for 2015, 2016 showing lower than normal precipitation. And so putting all these tools together, you get an idea of how you can combine groundwater levels, surface water flows, and then precip to get an idea of drought conditions or not drought conditions. And this is just pulling, again, another graph from Mason's tool. I'm going to check the time because I got to make sure 2:16. Okay, I want to get to the website by 2:30. So this is a seasonal fluctuation, the water year. So on the top part of the graph the top part of the figure is December, January, February water levels over the last number of years and what the trend is showing. And then March, April, May, June, July, August, and September, October, November on the bottom. And you can tell seasonally coming into 2020. So this is an annual graph here. You can't see much of 2020 data. You'd have to go back to the hydrographs themselves. But this can give you an idea of the trend coming into 2020 on the lower graph. If things are declining in the late months coming into 2020. Another kind of question that people might ask is what if you have an interest from the Conservation Authority point of view of what sub-watersheds might be exhibiting best conditions for cold water fish. So what data can we turn to from the site? You can again go to the location themed map and look at the flowing water information system that's held at the University of Waterloo. You could go to the water table themed map and look at potential discharge areas, what might indicate areas of active groundwater discharge. And then one of the other things that I wanted to highlight today was just, again, another part of Mason's tools, but looking at stream flow analysis to see if your stream has a base flow dominated response to the hydrologic cycle. And I'll talk to that in a sec. So here on the top figure are the flowing water information sites, and you can pick the data from any of those sites by going to the University of Waterloo's website. You can't filter on these sites because we don't have the data within our database, but you could go and get the data from that FWIS site. And then on the bottom is the potential discharge areas. So you could look at certain sub-watersheds and see if there's more gray in certain parts of your watershed or study area versus areas where there's less gray and less potential for groundwater discharge. And then this is taking a look at the base flow. So this is one of the first times that I think we've ever had a really nice, easy way to look at the behavior of our streams. And Mason's put some great graphs together here that I wanted to highlight. So if you take a look at the Uxbridge figure on the top there, you see that the blue is base flow and the orange is the rest of the flow. So basically storm events and so on. And for the Uxbridge Brook at Uxbridge, which is high up on the Oak Ridges Moraine, you see a huge proportion of the flow is base flow. More than any, I think, other station in our, I've looked at a few, I haven't looked at all of them, but But certainly this is a really characteristic signature of streams that are really dependent on groundwater, lots of discharge into the system, probably really, really great habitat for brook trout and so on. And you can see the variability in all the streams around our geography, and everything from Cooksville Creek down in the bottom there where there's very little base flow, a whole bunch of different responses. And so there's lots of work and studies that can be undertaken using the data from the website. So I wanted to highlight that. So I'm not going to go into any, there's all sorts of questions that you could answer using the website. How deep do you have to drill to find water? Obviously, you could look at the water table situation. You could look at geology cross sections where the aquifers are. Where are the highest yielding aquifers? You could, again, look for the Thorncliffe, depth of the Thorncliffe, the Oak Ridges, the Scarborough. You could filter wells for where the driller recommended a high pumping rate. Does my property intersect a WAPA? You could pull up on the land use themed map, you can pull up the WAPAs and see where they sit. Is the glass half full or half empty? Okay, our site might not answer every question, and will I get a raise next year? That is not one of our themed maps yet, but we'll work on it. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to flip to the website. And before I do that, I'm just going to show you what I kind of want to do, and I won't do all of these figures, but what I kind of thought I would do is take a typical project that someone might encounter either as a consultant or reviewing from a public sector agency staff member's point of view. And so I randomly picked a site in Uxbridge, and I just want to, so here I have the outline of the site, and I'm going to go through and look at the ground surface topography, maybe a more regional setting, different kinds of wells showing up on the map. I'll look at the surficial geology, the sediment thickness, how deep to bedrock on that site, maybe some of the land uses that are taking place in the area, bedrock topography, top of the Newmarket Till. So there's a couple geological interesting features around here that we'll talk about when we get to the website. So the Newmarket Till isn't present everywhere. I'm going to drill some proposed boreholes on the site, and here's my location, so you could put them on the site and doctor up your figure to show where you're going to drill. Water table elevations, depth to water table, potential discharge areas, areas where the water table is 1 meter below ground. Land use designation, I did this really late in my review, but we'll come to that and then have a discussion on it. Estimated recharge rates, evapotranspiration, cross-section, and so on. So that's where we're going to go. And I just thought I would show you some of those because I don't know how far I'll get when I get to the website. I'll just end when okay, so it's 2:23, so I'm not in bad shape. Okay, so the first thing that I just signed into the website. Again, I'm not going to go through all the, you get to our website, you go to the sign-in page, you land here, you go to the maps, you land here, you hit consolidated map, and you land here. So I've just accepted the disclaimer, and I hit on the layers button in the lower left-hand corner, and I'm set to go. Okay, so the first thing that I thought I would do when I started thinking about this presentation is I thought, okay, I'm gonna draw a boundary around a site, and I'm gonna save it as a project. And it sort of works, but I'm going to tell you that we have a few issues with this. So I'm going to go to the tasks bar up here on the green, and I'm going to open my project. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I've called it Uxbridge Test. I'm going to open that project, and it says it's going to overwrite this current project with that one. I'm going to say okay, and here we go, and it jumps to my project. So there's the red line that I drew by hand, and what I had saved. So what I thought we would do is I went to the tools and to the layer catalog, And I added a whole bunch of different layers in here that I could turn on and off to create those figures that I just showed you. And when I saved my project, I only ended up with a bunch of the boreholes that I saved in my project. And so in discussions with our GIS colleagues at CLOCA, what has happened is this saving of projects that hasn't worked quite as nicely as promised and as we expected. And so I know Annie and Rod and the guys at CLOCA have been working closely with the support group at GeoCortex and Esri to figure this out. And we still haven't figured it out. But what's happening is GeoCortex has been migrated to a new JavaScript. We're in an older version of GeoCortex, and so we've got to migrate the project into the new version. And once we do that, a lot of some of the clunky things with contours and so on will be solved. And I don't really have a timeline I want to promise you that we'll have the migration done, but hopefully by the end of this year we could find the time and the support to move it over, and then we'll see some better response on the GeoCortex website. But for now, for now it doesn't quite save. So the way that you save a project, you can go tasks and save, and it saves whatever you have. Now I'll show you a couple of other projects that I have saved. So wells needing correction, I've just saved this project. I'll open it up quickly. It's a very simple project, but we fix a lot of the MOE wells that we see where the QA code is greater than 5, if it's 6, 7, 8, 9, so indicating that the coordinates are off by, they're uncertain in MOE's world. And so what we do is go in and check those wells, usually around communities. If we're working, with Peel, York, and Durham, we'll try to fix wells that might help us fix the geology around certain areas. So here I was just working, I think, around Cheltenham when I saved it. What I have showing, I'm going to close that. Yeah, I think I just have the wells that need coordinates checked. And I can save my project at a certain location, and I can start coming in again later and move north, south, east, west, or to a new community when I've fixed all the red dots in a certain area. So that's one way I've used the projects. Another one is just report mining. We're putting a lot of boreholes into the database from documents, and we kind of try to mix that up and do it in a sort of systematic way to get better coverage in areas where we need data. So I have a couple projects like that. So I'm not gonna tell you much more about projects because they don't work that well. And the idea is that, if you save a project and you're going on holiday, you could give it to your coworker and they could carry on with everything that you've set up. But it's not working ideal, and we'll let you know when it does work properly. But it does work for certain things, and it does save your view, and it's a little better than looking at bookmarking locations. Okay, so getting back to Uxbridge, so I'm going to close this project thing down. So what I instead of drawing that red line that I showed you in Uxbridge, what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a shapefile instead. And so I'm going to choose files to upload. And I have this shapefile of that property that I showed you. So when you upload a shapefile in GeoCortex, you don't just upload the shapefile itself. You need actually all 4 of those files in order to make it work. So that's, we've had questions on that in the past, and we've got to put some text up here that'll let you know that. So I select all the 4 main shapefiles. I go upload, and I go, it's just called Uxbridge shape. So it comes in, and I can adjust it here. So say I'm going to make it black down here. And this layer on the bottom, when it comes in, this is your transparency. So if you don't change the transparency here, it comes in totally filled in with a solid color. If you move it to 0, it becomes transparent. So that's a little trick that's handy to know. The line width, I think I'm going to make 3. Now it seemed to lose my color there. I'm going to go back to black. Maybe no, it's not cooperating with me here. Okay, you know what? I'm going to proceed for a minute.
Steve?
Yeah?
You're all the way transparent. That's why you can't see it. Go 50% transparent or something.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, I'm good. I wanted the outline of the line to be black, so it is black. Okay, so that did work. And once you have it in, so there's my shapefile. Thanks for that, Mace, by the way. Once it's in, you can change. How do you do that again? I think you can change the view of it here by, how do you do that again? Or you take the layer up here. Sorry, my mistake. So you go to that shape layer here, and you can change around. So you don't change the layer properties, you change the visualization, and in here you can play around with what I just showed you. So I'm done, and there's my shape layer. Okay, so we've got our shape layer in. I'm going to close this here. Now we're back to where we started. So this is the property we're going to be investigating, say, as our project. And now some of the first things you might want to do are you could look at what it looks like from an aerial photo point of view. So you've got trees on the south, you've got a field here. It's right next to the golf course, so we can pretend that the golf course is going to expand and put some housing in this adjacent property, so they have more golfers coming into their property. Again, we have, what do we have showing on red here? I'm not quite sure what those wells are, but you can okay, I'm going to shut these lots concessions off because they're kind of annoying. And the transportation layer is off here. Okay, so I'm on the boreholes layer. Oh, I have the MOE wells that need correction on. Okay, so let's shut those off. Okay, so now here you might want to usually what I do is I start on the geology themed map. So I'm going to jump over to geology because that's just my instinct as a hydrogeology to start on the hydrogeology map or the geology map and then move around from there. So the DEM comes on, so I could leave it on and there's our property. You could make it a little bit, less transparent or more transparent, whatever you want to do. I have an Uxbridge local bookmark that I've already saved in my GeoCortex file here, and I've also saved a more regional view. So those two views are handy. Once you have a site, you can do as many as you want, and then when you go to print, everything will be at the same scale, and so that makes printing and getting figures together a lot easier. So that's kind of the way you would dance around characterizing or getting your property boundary in and starting your characterization. And so now that I'm in the geology map, often what I do is go to the specialty tools. I'll go to the layer catalog, and in here I'm going to add some of the wells by category. So down here I want to add, I'm going to add in all boreholes. I want to see all boreholes. Wells with supplementary logs, so those give me some good geology information. Flowing wells, sometimes they're interested to see if we have flowing conditions. PQ cord wells, those are really good geology wells. Durham region, I know I'm in Uxbridge, so Durham's probably going to have some wells since Uxbridge is on a groundwater supply. High capacity wells maybe, so let's say that's enough. So I'm going to say okay. And what happens is those layers get loaded in here. Just takes a few secs. So there they are. And then you can turn them on and off, however you want to do things. So let me turn all of them off. The first thing that I noticed here was that we have a well right in the middle of this property. So that is often nice that you have a well on your property. So we can go have a look at it and see what's there. So I am going to find the well here. So there's my well. So I can open up the water well record and see what it looks like. And when I did this the other day, I noticed that, son of a gun, when you look at the map here, that well is really not on the correct property. It should be at the cemetery road over here. And so that's disconcerting. And I also noticed that there's actually 2 wells on this property. So I'm going to open the second one. And when I open the second one, I also see that that well is on the wrong property. So this is a common theme that occurs as we do our work, Rick and I and Mason and Mike and so on. And so we're continually fighting this battle. So what I kind of thought, let me see the time. Okay, it's 2:35. What I thought I would do very quickly is show you that we can go right to the database. So I should have gone quickly back here. So you might recall that when you come into this part of the website, once you sign in, there's this direct link to the live database. Now, that will not work for most of you out there. But if, for partners who have trained on the database, for us who are making changes on the database all the time, you can hit this live link. And what happens is I get taken over here, and we have a couple programs that we use to interact with the database. So I can look in here. I know the MOE ID for those wells is 1912420. Now this isn't very exciting to watch someone work, and I know that, and I don't want to bore you to tears here, but I'm going to open up that well just for fun here. And I'm going to assume that everything will work. And there it is. Okay, so that well is right there. I'm going to open the well, and I'm going to edit it. So I'm working on the live database right here now. I'm going to go to the position tab, and I can see where that well lies right now by looking on Google Maps. And so there's the well right in the middle of that property in Uxbridge. So that's okay. I've got the right well, just to make sure. And so now I know the coordinates because I wrote them down before the meeting. The coordinates I want to change to 649. 302. I copy that, and I'm going to paste it there. I know this is boring, but bear with me for 2 seconds. 4884145. Oh, my light's going off again. I'm just going to stand up and wave my hands like a drunken fool. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it down here. And there, my coordinates are changed. And so now I will look on Google Maps. And so there's Cemetery Road. The well record indicated that that well should be 50 feet over from Cemetery Road. And that's great. So that's where the well is. I'm going to make a note here that coordinates adjusted based on the water well record. And I'll just put my initials so people know it was me, 2020 0729. And that's done. So I'm going to give it, that map wasn't so great. So I'm going to say it's probably the confidence of that, I'm going to say, is within 300 meters, which means it's good for geology. It's good for water table. So the source of that data point is the ORMGP website. And the method, I got the coordinates right from our website. I'll show you that in a sec. So now when we come back into the database on Monday, so it's not going to be fixed right away because it takes time for this to work its magic through the system. But I'm going to close that, and that well now is fixed in the database. And so it took me a few minutes, but not too ugly. So now I can go back here. I know that well, there's another one. I'm going to move the other one later. I don't have to show you moving both of them, but that is a common exercise that that we do to fix the database on a routine basis. So now that well will be moved over to Cemetery Road over here, right there. And there's a bunch of ramifications of that change. So one, if I go to the water table, so I'm in here, I'm going to go to the water table map. And I'm going to shut all the boreholes off so they don't disturb us. But you can see that this is a white dot on the water table map, indicating that's a shallow well, and the water table has been, the water level from that well is being used to construct the water table. So now that that well is bounced way over here, this will have some subtle change on the water table configuration and the depth of water table. It also has some effects on the geology layers, because we have some picks on that well that the Thorncliffe Formation is a certain depth and so on. And so there's a whole bunch of cascading implications of moving wells in the database. And so Mike, in a couple of months, will reconstruct a new water table surface, and it'll be picked up in its new location. The water table will change subtly. Rick, in the geology work that he does, will notice that the picks have changed. We have a bunch of routines in the database to pick up these changes, thanks to Mike's work. So again, highlighting that the database is actively managed. It's always changing. It's long-term, but we have a long-term vision for this, right? So we're all working, again, hopefully you're all with us and thinking that this is a great community hub that we're all going to work on for the next 100 years. And so it doesn't depress us to have to spend 10 minutes to change locations of wells, because we know that 20 years from now, people are going to be relying on this. It makes things tighter and better all the time as we go forward. Okay, so I did want to show you that. That was one part of what I wanted to do today. So the other thing that we didn't touch on the other week is chemistry. So let me shut off the water table. I want to go to look at the water quality data. And so here's our site. And let's say it's going to be on private individual well systems, and the client is interested in what the water quality might be, or the region of Durham, Beata might be worried about what kind of water quality is going to be turning up from these wells, and they're not going to be linked to the communal system. So I've gone to the chemistry page, and here's wells that have chemistry. And so what we could do, first of all, is we could go to the specialty tools analysis, and we could do a Piper plot. Well, actually, even before we go to the Piper plot, let me cancel that. I wanted to show you that we have the water quality. So we have all the wells that have geochemistry data. We also have wells classified by different water types based on their major ion composition. And this is thanks to a fellow Mesmer who used to work at the MOE. Some of you guys might know him. And he worked with us for a year just before he retired, and characterized all of our groundwater quality data into water types. And so you can get an idea if you scroll around and snoop around, you'll see different water types. So anyway, obviously our waters in Uxbridge are calcium magnesium bicarbonate type. I'm going to zoom back into my local Uxbridge area, so I'm back where I want to be. And now I can go and do the Piper plot. So I'm going to turn on all the wells again. I'm going to go to my Piper plot tool. I have to draw a polygon around the wells. So let's say we'll take all of them. So I'm going to do, oops. Okay, we'll skip those two. I screwed my polygon up. I'm going to send that to the Piper plot tool, and then I'm going to open my Piper plot. And you can see, I mean, the waters are classified based on really the Piper plot analysis. So they're gonna fall into a calcium magnesium bicarbonate area within the Piper plot. And all the wells, all the wells that we captured, and there's many from different dates, right? So you can tease out the different dates by using your slide bar here, and that'll start knocking out different dates when so you can see over time if the water quality has changed and progression and so on. And you could go one at a time. You know, I've just put them all together here, but you know, and if this tool is of interest to any of you out there and you want more options with it and so on, you can discuss that with us and we can try and make it better. Now, let's say I wanted to find the chemistry data from some of these wells. So that is not so easy from the map. We don't have a great tool yet to pull graphs right from GeoCortex. We're working on it. It's one of the things we have in the back of our minds, but we're not there yet. So what you have to do instead is you have to go back here and you have to go to the monitoring data tool. And in here, you start off by going search and locate wells. Okay, so I'm gonna search not for climate to surface water. I want wells or boreholes right now, and it starts looking. And then I want the name to have Uxbridge in it. Okay, and then it's gonna start looking for wells with the name Uxbridge. Takes a few seconds to pull them. Okay, so here they're coming in, and I'm going to start scrolling down to see. Okay, it's still pulling them in. I got to wait a sec. Come on. Okay, patience. I'm getting impatient. There we go. Okay, so the wells that I want to look at the chemistry for, so I know the names of them again because I clicked on them before the meeting. And so this well here, 1S and 1D are near our property. MW5 is near our property. 7 is near our property. What other ones? These 1D and 1S are close by, and I think there's a SW1 that's also close by, 5 and 4. Okay, so those are the wells I'm going to look for chemistry on. So I confirm that, and now I'm going to add a lab data parameter. So I don't want a field data would be anything that doesn't require obviously going to a lab. So water levels, field pH or field conductivity if it didn't go to a lab, temperature if you measure temperature, conductivity, and so on. So those are all field parameters. Lab parameters are handled differently in the database. Okay, so I'm going to select one of my locations. So let's say I'll just go to MW5 because I know it has good data. And so our chemistry in our database is divided into you know, a number of different categories. So there's general chemistry, there's metals, there's a bunch of other things in here too that are not chemistry. So PAHs, volatile organics, isotopes, there's lots and lots of, I can't remember how many hundreds of parameters we have in the database. So let's say I'll go to major ions and I want to, I don't know, fish out chloride for fun. Okay, so I'm going to get chloride for that well, and maybe I want to have another parameter too. So I could go to Uxbridge number 5, or I could go to number 7. I mean, even take a different well and compare the chloride concentrations from both wells and see if they're similar or not. So I'd go to major ions again, and I'd pull up chloride. So I'm going to compare well 5 to well 7. You can view the report. And so our chemistry, so it looks like chloride's generally increasing over time. We've got quite a number of results there, and they're similar. So they're probably in similar aquifers. We can go check that. And you could download the data right here into an Excel or CSV file. So that's how you fish chemistry out of the database. So it's not really the most intuitive yet. And if you have, I mean, if you're looking for an individual well, then you have to need the MOE ID, because that's the name of the wells. Of all wells where we haven't changed the name, we have a number of name fields in the database. We always keep the master name or the original name equivalent to the MOE's water well record ID. We also keep the A tags in the database, but we give a NOC name. If we know that it's Uxbridge pumping well number 5, then we change the LOC name to well number 5, Uxbridge well number 5. But if it's just a domestic well, it'll still be 1912654, as we saw with that other well we just moved. Okay, so you gotta click on the well, find the name of the well right there. So Uxbridge pumping well, the name, and then you have to go to the monitoring data and put that name in to get the chemistry for that well. So that's how you do that. I wanted to highlight chemistry today as well. Okay, so we're at 250. So what else did I want to show you? So a couple other things I wanted to show you here. Okay, I'm going to close the Piper plot. I'm going to go away from the water quality. I'm going to go to stream profiles quickly. I'm going to come back to geology in a sec. So stream profiles, these are cross sections that are canned cross sections, but there's one that goes right through this area adjacent to our property, fortunately. And so when I click on that line, I can open a stream profile, and this cross section goes right along the stream itself. And I think I don't know if I showed this, and I don't think I did the last meeting. So anytime one of our yellow or orange layers, which are aquifers, Oak Ridges, Thorncliffe, Scarborough, anytime they intersect the floor of the stream, there's potential for groundwater discharge. So huge potential for groundwater discharge from the Oak Ridges aquifer here and down here, the shallow aquifer. So this gives you an idea of where the tills intersect the base of the stream, and where we interpret the tills or the aquifers to intercept the stream, and our property is just up in this area here. So these are available for a number of streams along the area. So that would help you characterize, the property here. If I go back to geology for a sec, then the other couple things I wanted to show on this property, I want to shut the transportation off. I'm going to shut the DEM off here. But I wanted to put up the features. I wanted to put up the tunnel channels. So tunnel channels are these features that Rick talked about, erosional features beneath the ice that have carved these valley systems in the topography. And I wanted to put up the bedrock valleys. And so you see both of these features are present in this area. So if we go to a cross-section view, I mean, if I put up the DEM again, you'll see that yeah, there's a lot of things I could do here. So these are the things that we do to characterize any property that we're looking at. So I turn on the DEM. I'm gonna make it semi-transparent, or maybe more. I want to zoom out, I think. Yeah, so it doesn't show so well until you go more regional. So I wanted to show you that these tunnel channels really follow the lows in the topography, and they come right into Uxbridge. And so when you look at the cross section across this property and across Uxbridge in general, all of this sediment that infills these tunnel channels will be, as Rick mentioned last time, will be filled with Oak Ridge's sediment, as opposed to tunnel channel sediment, which would constitute an underlying aquifer finding upwards to a silt at the top. And you wouldn't see that necessarily in the cross-section tool. I think that I'm gonna run out of time here. So I'm gonna quickly flip back to my PDFs and just maybe quickly show you. So the actually water budget. I wanted to no. There's one more thing I do have to show you. So one of the things that you can do here, I'll do the watershed characterization. I haven't done this tool either. So if I say I want to do a watershed characterization tool, I'm going to upload a polygon to the GeoCortex, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to choose the same 4 files that I did before. So there's my shape file, and I'm going to say continue. And so what happens here is you get a characterization. So zoom's really tight on your figure here, but it characterizes both your land use in terms of hectares of different kinds of land use in that polygon, as well as the superficial geology in that polygon. So those are kind of nice handy figures that you can incorporate into a report, knowing that you have this site you're trying to characterize. So that's a handy feature on the site that I wanted to highlight. And the same way, if you want to do a database view, you could upload a shape file, or you could draw on a polygon. So sometimes you want wells that are outside of your area, not just inside the area. So I'm going to draw a polygon around our property. So say I want to capture these wells here. I want to go around the property. Maybe I'll catch those in here, and maybe just that one there. Okay, so we'll end our polygon, and then I go continue. And so all of those wells are captured. So there's 37 wells that got captured, and they come into these tables here. And now this table is misnamed. If you look at it, it's not PICS. It's not the geology PICS. We're going to fix this up in the next week or so. They're just mislabeled a bit. So anyway, if you look through these tables, the PICS are here. These are the geological PICS that we have on all the wells in that area, whether they're channels or Newmarket or whatever. The hydrogeology table gives you an idea of how many water levels exist for each well, when the screen, the top and the bottom of the screen, what formation we think the screen is in. Gives you all this information from the database, and you can download that and include it in a report or take a look at it. The borehole table, again, just gives you some general information on each location, XY coordinates, the depth of the borehole, who drilled it, drilling method, and so on. The link to the PDF water well record is in there. And then, yeah, and this one I think is going to be a geology table. So it would give you all the geology records from the well driller, layer 1, layer 2, if it's silt, clay, sand, and so on. So that's another way to pull data from the database. And I think it's 2:57. I want to respect your time. I could go on and on because our website is so exciting, but I'm not going to. I want to flip back to the PDF. So yeah, I was going to show you the water budget is the same idea. You can click on any cell. I did want to show you editing the maps, and I didn't get to that. So let me just tell you quickly that if you go to markup here, you can draw lines, texts, anything onto the map. So that's how I did those boreholes. You can snap text. There's a tool. Where is that tool? Once you draw text, you can play around with this up here. We'll maybe have more sessions in the future to show you editing of maps on the fly and so on. But I don't want to go over time by too much. But I put these, I put some of these figures together to show you that you can draw and write numbers onto the map. When you look at the land use on this property, actually the whole property is part of a WAPA. I didn't show you that. And it's actually also in the Greenbelt. So one of the first things I should have done is taken a look at the land use map and told my client that he would never get approval because it's in the Greenbelt, but I didn't do that until figure 13. So that didn't work. What else was interesting? These are just standard maps that you could pull underneath and print. Yeah, the dots, I put points on the map and said proposed borehole locations, so that was pretty straightforward. And here I was just trying to show you that the Newmarket till doesn't exist everywhere within those tunnel channels. And bedrock topography, we have that Bedrock Valley. It's kind of a subtle valley, but goes along the edge here. Okay, so I think those are the main things that I wanted to show, just to, again, give you more of a feel of how you can make use of the site. So I was going to go back to our slides just to wrap up. Some of the themes that we want to, some things that in the short term we want to move forward with. We want to put up a water taking theme map where we have maybe the permits, pumping volumes from wells, and also maybe a shiny application of Masons to show a link between water levels, precipitation, and pumping. We have a hydraulic properties theme that Mike has been working on to look at specific capacity from the MOE wells. And there's a paper that Rick and Mike have looked at and put a procedure into the database to calculate based on those short-term pumping tests from the MOE. You can generate a hydraulic conductivity. So that would be in the database. We could do thickness times K to get transmissivities. Porosities, we've been mining from the database a little bit, not so much heavy yet. Rick has been working on these areas of concern mapping, so we're thinking of adding that up to the geocortex site. Deeper potentiometric surfaces are coming as well. Clip and ship, this is really our dream, where you can come in, put your polygon, upload your shapefile, and download all the data and the layers for that shapefile. We want to move there. We know that'll be really useful for everyone out there. We want to expose more modeling insights onto the website, maybe do some capture zone analysis and so on. And we're working on new geological rendering. We're calling that our harmonization project. We have all these different eras of geological surfaces that we're trying to pull together into a harmonized kind of authoritative geological surface as we go forward. So I'm going to end there. I think we're at 3 o'clock, 3:01. So go take a look under the hood. That's my my rapper version, the neighborhood. Hey, go take a look under your subsurface neighborhood. And there's a few quotes there that that inspire us to do what we're doing. And again, so that's the last of our sessions. If you found them informative and useful, would like to know that. Again, I'll remind you that a lot of people forget to use the website. Once they hear about it, they think, wow, this is great, but then they go back to routines. So I encourage you to force yourself to think about coming back to the website to use it. It's a lot of information here, and it's only going to get better, and we want to work as partners with everyone who's listening today. So I'm going to end it there. I'll take questions, and thanks so much for joining us for these 4 sessions, or as many as you've been able to attend. Thanks so much. So I'll turn it over to Mason to let me know if there's any questions, Mace, if you have any.
I do have one at the moment. And I'll read that off. This had to do with back when we were altering the location. And the question is, so if a well is moved by Steve, as Steve just showed us, the layers would not be recalculated in real time. Would it be recalculated the next time you guys update the layers?
Yeah, that's correct. They would be updated the next time we generate surfaces. So geology would I don't know, every year, couple years, depend on the area that it could be fixed sooner or later, depending if we've just visited a certain area in terms of geology. The water table surface, I've been trying to generate, once or twice a year. It changes subtly, right? So small changes like that don't make a big change. So, we would say that you can generally rely quite comfortably on the interpretations that are on the website, but it's only getting better all the time. We're not afraid of changing it to make it better. I mean, that's basically our philosophy, right? It's always going to get better. So you could record the date when we're starting to be more rigorous on metadata and when different surfaces are generated and so on, and that you'll see coming onto the website as we go forward. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I don't see any more questions coming in. I see a lot of thank yous and well wishes and well dones, so that's positive.
Yeah, okay, we'll take that.
But I guess, yeah, feel free to close it off, Steve.
Okay, good. So we'll stop the recording again. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us, and have a great summer and stay safe.